Howdy, Vine Trippers. I wanted to take just a moment to talk to you about the Texas Wine Lover website and their phone app for both iPhones as well as Google devices. You can actually download this app, put it on your phone, or just go to the website if you're not an app person. And if you ever want to go visit some of these great locations that we've been talking about in the podcast, this will give you a great information about the place before you go. And you'll be able to find other wineries in the area. So if you want to make a day of it, go see several other places as well. You can search by region. You can sort the listings, find ones that are kid-friendly, family-friendly, even ones that host RVs. All kinds of different sortable listings you can find there in that app and on the website. You can find other things as well in the area like restaurants, accommodations, maybe events that are going on at the different wineries. So it's your one-stop resource that goes hand in hand with this podcast to be able to find those great places to go visit. So check out the Texas Wine Lover website. It's txwinelover.com. Or go to their app. You can find it on the Google Play Store or the Apple Store as well. Enjoy your trips among the vines and use that app. Welcome to Texas Under Vine, an exploratory podcast to scout out the best that Texas wine country has to offer. I'm your wine guide, Scott, and I'm here to lead you on an auditory expedition to the vineyards and wineries across the great Lone Star State. Each episode will cover a different vineyard, winery, or wine-related business operating in Texas. You'll hear interviews, descriptions, and details about each location that will excite you to visit and experience them for yourself. Ready to plan a wine tour? Use these episodes to choose the most interesting spots for you and your friends to check out. Most of all, enjoy hearing about the rapidly growing wine industry in the state and what makes our wines and wineries the best. Howdy, fellow Vine Tripper. Welcome to episode 32 for Texas Under Vine. For this episode, I went out and about on the very famous area in Texas, the Wine Road 290 in Central Texas in the Hill Country, in between Johnson City and Fredericksburg. I stopped out at a little winery just outside of High called Kuhlman Cellars. So let me tell you a little bit about it. This location was opened in 2014 and is owned by Christopher and Jennifer Cobb. They started with an experimental vineyard just north of where the current location is. And once the property there on 290 became available, they jumped on it and started what we know of as Kuhlman Cellars and their tasting room there. The name of the winery, Kuhlman Cellars, actually comes from a creek that runs on their property for where the experimental vineyard is called Kuhlman Creek. And their current winemaker, Zach Rains, actually comes to us from Paso Robles, California. He's only been there at Kuhlman now for a matter of months, but his rich background and experience there in Paso Robles is what he brings to Kuhlman Cellars here in the Texas Hill Country, and he's really excited to be here. So there at Kuhlman, they are heavily focused on wine and food pairings. Their old winery is actually a barrel room where they host these food and wine pairing experiences. And I've talked to many people over the years who just rave over the bistro that they have there at Kuhlman Cellars and their events that they put on, just incredible food and great wine pairing experiences there. Now, over the 10 years that they've been open, they have expanded. They've opened up a new kind of winery production building just down the way with a barrel room there to be able to expand and grow over the years. The tasting room itself also has this really cool terrace over the top, so you can take a stairway back behind and go up and actually sit on a table or some chairs up above the tasting room on this beautiful view overlooking all the vines. You can actually see the wine road up there as you are looking out on a beautiful day. Makes a great place to enjoy a glass of wine and enjoy the view. And did I mention those vines? They actually have close to 10 acres of vines, not just there on the property that you see, but also including that experimental vineyard that they first started with. But they also source some fruit and some of their grapes from the Texas High Plains as well. They do like to be 100% Texas in their wines. Now, although they don't have any sweet wines, they do have a great selection of reds, whites, and rosé. And did someone say almonds? They make these incredible Marcona almonds. They're really famous for them in a Provence style. You'll hear more about it in the interview, but they're so tasty. They even have an almond club. So just like their wine club, you can actually do an almond club to get these almonds shipped directly to your door. That's how amazing they are. Now, when I went to visit, I got to sit down with that new winemaker, Zach Rains, and he took me back into their production facility and shared with me a little bit about not only his background coming from Paso Robles, but a little bit of the history of Kuhlman and some of the great things they have planned and some of the wines that he's coming out with. So sit back and let's listen to the interview and see what he has to say about Kuhlman. And I'll be right back with you. So I'm here with Zach Rains, the winemaker here at Kuhlman Cellars. So tell me a little bit about yourself. How did you get into the wine industry?
So I was born in the central coast of California, Paso Robles area. Grew up with a mother and father who actually planted a vineyard out there in the York Mountain region. Spend a lot of trips with my dad going to York Mountain Winery to deliver grapes, which was the oldest established winery on the central coast. I think it was 1882, I believe it was founded. So just those sights, those memories of taking grapes to the winery. Mom and dad never really made wine, but they grew it and we sold to them. And so they actually were caretakers for the property where they planted the vineyard. And so some years down the line, they split up, and then my mom and my dad, or my stepdad, they actually planted another vineyard out there on his property on west side of Paso. And so I really grew up around the wine industry since, I was knee-high to a grasshopper, and so started working at Wild Horse Winery back when I was about 17. First got my first chops in the industry, and it's been a long, windy wine road for sure, so to speak, and worked out there at about 3 different spots. Was the assistant winemaker over at Kuhlman Cellars back in about 2006. To about 2010, and then took over for winemaker for my family's estate out in Adelaida, Paso Robles area, and was there for about 13 years, and the opportunity arose to come out here to Texas and try something new, and here I am. So yeah, it's first harvest out here in Texas this year.
Nice. Into this burgeoning wine industry we have here in Texas.
Yeah, it really reminds me of even Paso from back in the day. I mean, I was born and raised there, so I saw it from its early roots of being somewhat of a cow town and a lot of agriculture, and then kind of budding and blossoming into this really fantastic wine region that you see out there now, which has grown exponentially over the last 20 some odd years. And so, yeah, it's really has a lot of similarities to that for me, is that's kind of new and fresh, and everyone's still kind of in this race to figure it out, and some have maybe figured it out. And so I think it's really a fantastic place to be. I love the people. The weather can be challenging, a little bit different than California, but nevertheless, just really happy to be here, and up for a little slightly different challenge, because there's not just good or bad, it's just different, right? So that's the way I look at it.
As a lover of puns, I like the idea of the windy road. W-I-N-E-D-Y, the windy road.
That just came to me on the fly.
I'll be here all week.
Yeah,
Continuations. All right, so let's talk a little bit about this location's history for a second. So how did Kuhlman Cellars get started? I know you necessarily weren't here during that start, but you probably know a little bit about its history and how you got involved with it.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been packing it in the last 4 months I've been here. So the history is basically the Kuhlman Cellars was started in 2014 by Chris and Jennifer Cobb. They had a love for wine dating back to college, and I think when they were getting together in the early days, and so it really blossomed, I think, with some of this burgeoning wine scene happening, and I think they had a small experimental vineyard that they had just north of here, just north of Fredericksburg. That was a experimental block that they planted a little over an acre of about 14 different varieties, and so that's kind of how it started. And then this property came available, and they started breaking ground. The original winery is what we call the barrel room today. That's where we do our food and wine pairing over there in our special events. And so that was 10 years ago almost now, and so it's really grown in the last 10 years. It's expanded. They were some of the first to do food and wine pairing out here on the 290, if not the first, and really honing in on that education with wine and with food, and that philosophy that both things go better together, are better together. And so that really was the start of it. And it's really just expanded. Now there's a separate production building where we're having this interview in. It grew. It was just the west side building, and now we have a barrel room that's separate from our tank farm, and it's just really grown. We have a wine garden that was built some years later, and now we have a terrace on the top. So it's really great views up there. Just a really lovely place to come out and have a glass and buy a bottle and just enjoy, the wonderful Texas weather and just relax a little bit. And we also have a great food and wine pairing that we serve in the tasting room, because we have a bistro here on site. So we're always serving food. And then every couple of months, 3 months or so, we'll go there and change out the food and wine pairing. It's a cool little bite that you can get, just a little bite that pairs with a certain wine that we've selected for that period of time. And it's just a great way to taste the cuisine out here, and then also pair it with a lovely Kuhlman wine.
And I've heard from so many people, friends and stuff, that their journey into wine was through wine and food pairings. So I've had a lot of friends who say, well, I've tried wine, I don't really care for it. But then all of a sudden they try it with a food pairing, and they're like, this is a completely different thing. This is something I can really get into.
Absolutely.
And it starts that journey for a lot of people. So
it really does. And I think that's part of the beauty of wine too, is like, I always like to say that it is kind of it's a way to keep those that we love at table for a little bit longer, and to experience the wonderful benefits of sitting at table with family or friends and sharing a meal, and then bringing out a great wine that pairs with that food. Maybe it's locally sourced, maybe it's a regional cuisine that goes fantastic with that wine, and then just having that whole experience. It's often hard to have a really great experience with wine if you're not in a great mood. So it's like it's a great accompaniment to those experiences.
So is there a story behind the name of the location, Kuhlman Cellars? Where did that come from?
So Kuhlman Cellars originates from the Kuhlman Creek, which ran from behind the property on that experimental vineyard. That's essentially where it came from. I think they listened wisely to the inclination that may have been to call it Kuhlman Creek and been another one of the creek out here. We know we've got quite a bit of them. And so Kuhlman Cellars was what it was shortened down to. And I think it's a brilliant name. So
nice little nod, kind of tribute to where they started with the criminal vineyard.
Absolutely. There. Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. Well, let's talk a little bit about the fruit and the wine and things like that. So where do you source your fruit? I did see a lot of vines out there. Are you all estate-based, or do you source fruit in other places?
So we have, of course, the estate, 7, almost 8 acres. With the experimental vineyard, we're pushing almost 10. And it was originally planted right around 15. And it's planted to 5 different varieties. We've got on the white side, Roussanne and Marsanne. And then on the red side, we got some Mourvèdre, Aglianico, and Carignan, a little 2.3 acre block of Carignan. So we do source a lot of grapes from the high plains as well. That's predominantly the most of our production comes from up there. But in certain years, we will source more from the hill country as well, from other vineyards. This year, we didn't. We just did our own estate from the hill country, and then everything else came from the high plains.
And I'm hearing great things about this year's vintage so far. That it looks like a really good crop. So.
Yeah, it was, good crop, fair amount of crop out there for some vineyards. There were some vineyards that really got decimated by hail earlier in the season, but for what was left out there was a good quantity out there. Quality looks pretty good. The heat dome that kind of affected us for 40 some odd days was tough getting through that. I really found that the whites that we picked a little earlier in the year and some of the stuff we picked for rosé turned out to be really well, because it just didn't really have to deal with the stresses of 100+ degrees for 40+ some odd days. It was pretty brutal. So
days, it felt like 40 some odd years.
Yeah, I remember. It was just like,
oh my God,
the never-ending heat. And so,
I know you're from California. Yeah. I'm from Texas, but it still felt like 40 years.
Because Paso gets hot, so I'm no stranger to growing grapes and making wine and in high heat situations. But dang, Texas, that was hot. That was hot for an extended period of time. So the vines just kind of shut down a little bit when you get these extended heat spells, and so it it kind of draws out the harvest a little bit, even the high plain stuff. I mean, we just pulled in our last fruit 2.5 some odd weeks ago, and even for rosé, we finished with rosé. That stuff came in about 8 days ago. So it's been a kind of a long, drawn out harvest. We started in roughly end of July, and here we are.
You're still in the midst of fermentation.
Still in the midst of fermentation. Yeah, we got our last load to press off next week, so that'll be exciting.
And then, do you process all of that here at this location?
Yeah, everything's processed here, with the exception of a little bit of whites that get pressed up in the high plains that come down as juice, and then we ferment it all here. But that's the only thing that gets processed off-site. All the reds this year we processed in-house, so with our own destemmer, not machine picked, and so everything was hand harvested off the estate this year, which is it's quite a feat to gather up all these pickers and make sure you get it done in a timely manner to where the fruit's still cool and get it into the cellar and all that stuff. So that's definitely a plus, and that's why I like the estate fruit. Really drew me to Kuhlman Cellars is that you have a lot of places that have a tasting room, and that's great, and you have some that have facilities, and that's great, but this is a really fantastic, exceptional facility where you have winemaking, tasting room, and an 8-acre vineyard right here, all within walking distance of each other.
True grape to glass, as they say.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I got to help out with a few harvests this year, and that was a lot of fun to get out there and actually cut the grapes and get them all put together. I know that helps the wineries as well, but it's just as a consumer, it's a lot of fun, and now I can't wait for those vintages that come out so I can taste the grapes.
Hey,
that
I had
picked,
a little hand in that.
Exactly,
for sure.
That's
literally.
my wine.
Yeah, those are the clusters I harvested right there.
Drink this. I made this. All right. As a winemaker, what are your favorite wines to make? What do you like to make?
I like wines that show distinction of variety, that show balance, that can get ripe and have a tendency to show that really good, juicy fruit, red and dark fruit flavors, but still maintain some acidity, maybe a little savoriness as well. And so I'm looking for wines that can speak for not only a typicity of the varietal, but also of place and time. I think that is the beauty with wine, is that there's so few products that are time and place. If I asked you, hey, meet me here at noon, it's like, well, where are we going? Or if I say, hey, meet me at the cellar, well, what time?
Yeah.
And I think wine is a really unique, fascinating beverage in that we actually get to harvest something that has a vintage quality, which is time, and then bring it into the cellar and create it into this changing elixir that then becomes something that is unique, and they're somewhat like children too. It's like, all these ferments around here is like raising children, and so I want my children to be unique, but I want them to be tame, a little bit. I don't want them to be wild and feral in a way, maybe a little bit of that wildness, but I like Breton wine, but maybe not always in mine, so I think that's what I'm looking for is specificity, in that it shows something that's special, and also that it's, you can say if it's a blend, let's say, I get a little bit of that Cabernet, but it's different because it's got some Merlot in here, but you can kind of pick up on that, and it's distinct enough to show time and place. That's what I'm looking.
Do you have any favorite varietals you like to work with?
What are
you most proud of some of the wines that you've made?
I haven't found a variety I didn't like to make. I think that they all just uniquely showed themselves. I mean, when I was in Paso, I made a lot of wines, and even, your typical Cabernet and Chardonnay, and, Paso was predominantly known for two things, the Rhone varieties that really became popular out there, Viognier and Syrah and Grenache, but then also Cabernet, Gary Eberly out there, started some of the early plantings of propagating Syrah and the Estrella clone. And so those are some of the wines that I tasted in my early days that I really love. And so those are some of my favorite to make. But, I love making Cab Franc. I love making wines that people have never heard of, like Cab Pfeffer and Negrette and Carmenere, it's just, it's hard to put a finger on them, because as a winemaker, it's like, whoa, I want to see what what this side is. And
it's a new toy.
It's a new toy. Ooh, and so I think it's really special. And then because you learn a little bit, about each varietal and where it's grown as it's made, and maybe, maybe I'd do this a little bit next time, different. And maybe I'd put it a little bit in some oak, and, each site shows something different. But I think, having those ones that also can be a range of wines, you pick them here at 22, 23 bricks, they're going to be, this kind of style. And then if you pick them a little riper. And so I like wines that have a range to them, because it gives you this ability to create multiple styles out of single, varieties. And I think that's really special.
Howdy, Vine Trippers. Did you know that I now have a merchandise store for Texas Under Vine? I only have a handful of limited items, but you can go check those out and wear your Texas Under Vine swag if you'd like to tell all your friends about the great wine locations we have here in Texas, and maybe get them interested in the podcast as well. So there are things like t-shirts, there's a hoodie, there's a beanie, a ball cap, things like that. But one of the most exciting things I have right now is my limited time offer t-shirt. That's my Season 1 t-shirt. So this is your Tasting Through Texas Under Vine Season 1 t-shirt. It's only going to be available for a little short amount of time. On the back, it has all the different locations, like a band tour t-shirt. So this is a limited time item, and you can go out and get it now. And one of the great things about that t-shirt is a portion of every sale goes to support the Texas Hill Country Winery Scholarship Fund. So you know that by buying that t-shirt, you're also investing in the growing and flourishing of an amazing wine industry here in Texas, and all of those people that are going to come and make it even better. Check out that merchandise store. It's on my website at texasundervine.com. Just go up to the top. You'll see the link for the merchandise store. So let's turn our attention a little bit to the customer coming to visit. What type of wines do you typically provide here at Kuhlman? Do you have any specifics? And are there ones that are like really always hot sellers? Like these are always flying off the shelves if you don't get to them quick? And
for sure, we've really been known for a couple of things. So I think this is an area where Texas does really well. Is in addition to that is that rosé and white wines do really well. We make some fantastic red wines here as well. Hensel Rosé is our rosé. It's always a dry style, Provençal style rosé, and dry red wines and white wines. So we don't make any sweet wines here, so everything is dry. But it definitely, off the estate, we do a Roussanne that's fantastic. We do a mixture of our Marcon and Roussanne. That's our estate white blend. And then from the high plains and on the reds, we do a really fun nod to Bordeaux. We do our Asterie, which is usually Cabernet based with Merlot. Some years there's a little bit of Petit Verdot in there and Malbec. And so, those are the ones that I think for me, I really enjoy. But our biggest sellers definitely is a Louvet. That's kind of your everyday drinking red wine. It's bold, got good spice, but still has enough light tannin on there that it could drink in the summer as well as the winter.
Is that a blend?
It's a blend, and that varies from year to year. Some years it can be Sangiovese based, some years it can be Petit Syrah, in there as well, Tempranillo. It just kind of varies from year to year, and that's kind of the fun thing about that blend. And a lot of these blends is that depending on how the winemaker's feeling or how the vintage qualities are, it's going to change a little bit every year. So,
and is your rosé? What's the varietal to use for the rosé?
So generally, it's got Sangiovese, but we've done Cinsault in the past, we've done Grenache in the past. So that's another one that just kind of varies. Usually, it's always whole cluster pressed, fermented in stainless steel, and then this year I'm doing a little something different. That I'm aging a little bit in oak as well, neutral oak, and so we might throw an occasional acacia barrel in there, new acacia wood, just to kind of give it some more complexities, but. Generally, they're stainless steel driven. Alcohol is generally moderate to lower, but we do have like our Viognier, which has a little bit of a cult following. That's from the Bingham Vineyards up in the High Plains. Big, ripe, huge nose on it, in your face. Dare I say, maybe a little oily, and so it is that a kind of more extreme side of Viognier. And so I think it's important to have a wine for everybody if possible, and so. I think we have a really good portfolio of wines that will suit your palate coming out to the estate for sure.
What types of amenities or events or things like that do y'all do here at the location?
So we'll do quite a few events a year here. We have our typical wine club events, which are great. We've got a fantastic wine club. People will come out. We'll serve them food. We'll showcase the new wines. Sometimes we'll do some barrel tasting. But then we also do great events like Dog Days of Summer, which celebrates our four-legged friends and is a little bit for the benefit. It's the Humane Society of New Braunfels, so the portion of the proceeds go to that. We'll do like a blessing of the vines when the vines start to come out of hibernation and bless them for the year, that they give us bountiful fruit and they make it through another year of this climate, and that they can continue to live long lives in the future, which is part of our jobs here, to make sure that these vines can go into their 20s and 30s. Typical expectancy of a vine can be 20, 25 years. And so, obviously they can go a lot longer than that. So trying to make sure that process is elongated there a little bit so they can continue to give us great fruit. And so, we bless them in hopes that they, give us wine karma in return. So, yeah, so we do some fun events like that. We always have the bistro open. We're always open on the weekends, and typically, serving food and always doing our food and wine pairings. We have a small bites menu that you can actually order in the wine garden and eat it right there with your glass of wine and enjoy the views of the vineyard and hang out. So, yeah.
All right, so we've got listeners now who are saying, "Oh, okay, this is really interesting. I might want to come check it out." So let's talk about what a tasting might look like if somebody came in to check out Kuhlman Cellars and do a tasting there. So what are the details, if you know this, on the tastings? Like, does the customer pick their own wines? Do you pick the wines for the customer? What are the fees involved? Do they need reservations? Some of that kind of stuff.
I'd have to defer a little bit on that, just because I'm the chef in the back of the house a little bit, so I don't deal with the reservations as much. But I do know that we're open Thursday through Monday. The hours vary a little bit, whether it's on the weekends or the weekdays. Reservations are always recommended if you can, to call ahead just to give us a heads up, and that way we can make sure we're giving you the best experience possible. But we will never generally turn away a walk-in, especially if we've got time, and we'd love to serve you some wine. Tasting fee, I believe, I have to say somewhere in the $25 range. Don't quote me on that, but it's definitely goes to, I believe it's 4 or 5 wines you get to taste. And whether it's a selection or not, I'm not really sure. So I got to go spend some more time in the tasting room.
We're going to give you a little grace because you do have your head in some barrels here.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I hit the ground running when I came here in July. It was like, all right, get ready for harvest, and then harvest.
Yeah.
And it's really like, we moved out from California. We've got 3 kids. And so we've just been going with the harvest. And I'm like, man, I need to spend some more time in the tasting room now. So
you need to go sit down at a table and drink a glass and rest for a little bit.
Absolutely.
You mentioned the hours were Thursdays to Sundays, or your operating
Thursday through
days?
Monday.
Thursday through Monday.
Yeah.
Family friendly, under 21 allowed?
Yeah. No,
okay.
We're totally family friendly.
Okay.
We were out there doing a little photo shoot for marketing on Thursday, that was. And a little boy running around, jumping in the mud in his nice brand new white shoes. Dad's running around with a glass of wine in his hand, trying to wrangle his kid in a little bit. But yeah, we're definitely and pet friendly as well. Good pets on leash, are always welcome at the estate, and well behaved kids as well. So,
and you've got the food options with the bistro and all that there. I presume there's going to be like some things for the kids to be able to drink and things besides wine.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we've got a cooler full of miscellaneous drinks. We've
Perfect.
got Topo Chico up there, and some drinks for the kiddos for sure.
They can have their own sparkling.
Yeah, exactly. Start them while they're young.
So as we talk about food options, the bistro and everything, one of the things that I've heard about Kuhlman before I even came to visit here was you have to try the almonds at Kuhlman Cellars. I'm like, almonds? Like, they make the best almonds ever at Kuhlman Cellars. I've had people who, when they're driving down the road here, stop in just to get the almonds. So tell me, what's the story with these nuts?
Yeah. Yeah, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the almonds. We have an almond club. They're Marcona almonds. They have a really light but delicious, savory blend of Provençal-style herbs. And I think originally the herbs were actually coming from France, and they were proprietarily sourced and whatnot. And that was a long time ago. And I think that's, I think next to the wine, I mean, Kuhlman might be known more for its almonds. So like I mentioned, we have an almond club. And so those go out, I believe it's like every couple of months. And so, people just absolutely love them, and they pair great with the wine. I mean, every time they do a food and wine pairing with the almonds, I mean, it's just like, oh, this is fantastic. So, I mean, I would say come by for the wine, but come by for the almonds too,
You're going to walk out with a bag.
Yeah, absolutely.
I love that you have an actual club. You have a wine club and the almond club to go together.
Yep.
And that's just really cool. A lot of charcuterie boards that you'll have will have Marcona almonds on there. They do go so well.
They're fabulous. And they're roasted in-house by Chef Gil and the team. And so it's really cool that it's all kind of produced here on site. We get the raw ingredients, mix them up. We have this big roaster that Gil calls Elvis, because it shakes, rattles, and rolls. And so it's a great, cool little package and a delicious product. And it's really a fun part of what we do here.
That's quite nutty.
Yeah. Pun intended.
Do you have any maximum group sizes for people rolling in, like a tour bus coming in or things like that?
Yeah, that, I would say is probably somewhere around 12, I would think would be the maximum. We have that nice outdoor patio, and then we also have the terrace up there, which can fit quite a bit of people. So I would say just check with Molly, check with the front of the house and Malachi, and those guys will make sure they get you taken care of.
Awesome. So what are the busy and kind of slow seasons? What's the best time for somebody to come out and visit?
I really love the spring out here. The wildflowers just are absolutely stunning. The Johnson National Park is right down the road from us. Just a beautiful boutique and array of wildflowers out here. They're sprouting up in the vineyard. Everything's coming alive out of hibernation. That's personally my favorite time of year, but I also like it when it's a little hot, a little humid. It's a beautiful day to taste wine. So always a good time to taste wine at the estate, no matter what the weather is.
Tell me a little bit about the wine club. You mentioned it earlier.
Mm-hmm.
What are the details on becoming a member and some of the benefits of that?
So I think one of the main benefits of our wine club is that we will do a selection, but you also are able to make it fully customizable. So I think that's really a benefit. Some clubs, it's, this is the wine, that's it, and that's fine, that works too. But it's just, maybe I don't like that one, maybe I want to tweak it with this. And so I think it really gives you that option. I think that's a great thing about our wine club. Generally, there's 4 releases in a year. We do 2 in the spring, and I believe 2 in the fall, just to take advantage of those cooler shipping temperatures. But yeah, that's about what I know. I'm still learning. So
Good.
yeah.
No, that's great. That sounds good. So do you do any kind of distribution of your wines? In other words, how could people taste your wines if for whatever reason they couldn't get here to the estate?
Mm-hmm.
Do you sell online? Do you have any options like that?
A lot of online sales. We have a great website. You can order. We ship to you. We ship to quite a few states, and so that's definitely, I would say, number one is go to the website, make sure we can ship to your state, and find some wines that may be to your liking, and we'll definitely can get them out to you. And as far as like major distribution, we don't do a lot. Most of our business is DTC, and we are in some local restaurants out here, but kind of self-distributed in that way. And some beers places, beer gardens and breweries also have some of our wine by the keg. I know because I'm filling them out here in the cellar, and so that's definitely keep an eye out on the lookout for Kuhlman at your local restaurants on the wine list, but not a big, huge, you're not going to find these wines generally in H-E-B or anywhere else like that.
So as a DTC or direct-to-consumer winery, that's just further encouragement for people to come out and visit the estate and actually be able to try things. Or since my podcast does go throughout Texas, if you are in an area where it's hard to get here, go to that website and you can order things and try different things. Might lead you into joining the wine club.
Absolutely. Nothing's better than the magic of the estate, but I think it's a great opportunity. You come out, you taste some wines, you know what you like. Maybe you're an hour and a half, 2 hours away. Maybe even you're in San Antonio and you don't want to drive all the way out here. Yeah, just, we'll send you some bottles. You get it in a day or two, and, a wine delivered to your door, what an age we live in.
Yeah, I love going opening my door and there's wine right down the front porch. Like,
yeah,
all
right.
Exactly. It's Christmas Day. Do you have any plans for future growth out here? I know you've talked a little bit about some of the growth you've already had over just the last 10 years, but do you have plans to grow more, or what are your future ideas?
That I don't really know. I mean, I think we'd love to grow. We'd love to continue to sell more wine. We'd love to get case production up, I'm sure, to above 10,000 cases and keep growing. I think, we're at that 10-year mark where we need to figure out exactly where the North Star is, I think. And I think we know where that is that we want to continue to grow and create exceptional wine and be part of that first growth of Texas wineries, so to speak, if you want to use that analogy. And so I think that's really where we're set, is just producing great grapes off our estate, and continuing to make great wine from that and produce the best wine that Texas can make. Absolutely. And then on the hospitality side, just continuing to, bring people into the estate, show them a piece of our world, in both the vineyard and in the winery, and really just show them that, how wine is created. We're, like we mentioned before, education and food and wine pairing, and just continuing to, wave the banner of wine and Texas wine.
So what, in your opinion, is the number one thing that sets Kuhlman Cellars apart that might entice a listener who's listening to this episode to say, oh, I got to put that on my list. I want to go check that place out?
I really think we are an eclectic group of individuals out here, from the front of the house staff, to the back of the house, to the owners. We all just have a unwavering love for wine. And I think the thing that really, to me, pulls Kuhlman apart is that really the first to do food and wine pairing. I think that bistro side of things, to be able to show this presentation, it's generally a half an hour presentation of these are the wines, these are the foods, we've prepared both of them, try them together, tell us what you think. And it's a very educational, dominated kind of discussion and interaction. I think that's really great, is to, wine is history, but it's also education. And so I think it's great to be able to showcase both those things. And I think that really is what sets Kuhlman apart. And the fact that we have cellar, vineyard, and hospitality center all in a walking distance, that you can experience all of them. When there's grapes on the vine, you can walk out and taste them, and you can see, vineyard guys out moving barrels around in the back of the house. And so I think it's just a really exceptional place to come out and learn. We do a vineyard and cellar experience for those looking to get a little bit more look at how the sausage is made, so to speak. And I think that's a really fun aspect of the winery.
Okay, that was really cool to hear from Zach. Now, we did talk a little bit about it in the interview. He wasn't sure, since he's pretty new, about some of the things, so I did look up the information just so you know. When you do go do a tasting there at Kuhlman, it is a flight of 5 different wines. They have several flights that you can choose from. You can choose a mix of white and rosé, or a mixed flight, or a red wine flight. And again, those are 5 different wines. And it's $25 for the tasting. Their hours are Thursday through Saturday, 11 a.m. to 6 p.m., and Sunday through Monday, 12 to 5 p.m. So those are just a few of the little details that Zach wasn't 100% sure about in the interview, so I wanted to make sure and follow up here so you had all that detail and information. Of course, you can always find that on their website as well. I really enjoyed my time sitting there and talking to Zach. You can tell that his excitement and his energy are really palpable, and you can see that he's really got an excitement going forward for this new job. So there can't be anything but good things to come, I'm sure, for Kuhlman with Zach at the reins. Pun intended. As a matter of fact, the whole staff was super friendly. They bent over backwards just to take care of me while I was doing my tasting. They gave me even a sample of those almonds, which led to me buying a bag of them to take home. Now, the tasting room itself is situated right on the Wine Road 290. It's kind of hard to miss. You can see it from the road, Kuhlman Cellars there, and that you can go pull up off the road and drive back up to get to the tasting room. And although it was a little chilly while I was there, I didn't go up to the upstairs terrace to hang out, but I did walk up there for a minute to look around, and it's a really cool place on a beautiful dam shore. That's an awesome place to sit down and drink a little bit of wine overlooking the vines. And remember when you go that you really have to try their food. The bistro they have there has got nothing but rave reviews, and while you're there, you gotta try the almonds. Not only do they pair well with the wines for your tasting, but like I said, I bought a bag, I brought it home, and I only got maybe one handful before my wife grabbed it from me and she devoured the whole bag. I guess I'm gonna have to sign up for that subscription so I can get them every couple of months delivered right to my door. They truly do live up to their reputation. And again, their food, so many of my friends have commented about how incredible the food and their events are. So if that's something that you really value and want to do the wine pairing part of it, make sure you check out Kuhlman for that. Now, if that is enough to whet your taste buds and to get you excited to go check out Kuhlman Cellars, as always, go check out their website before you go. It's www.kuhlmancellars.com. So that's VISIT.KUHLMANCELLARS.com. You're going to find a bunch of info on their website. Things about their history, that tasting room, their events, the bistro. They even have a really cool link on their website for recipes. Like they said, they're known for their food and wine pairings, so they have recipes that you can actually download and make to pair with different wines. And if you can't get there, you can always go order wines directly from their website so you can get a taste of it without having to drive there. Now, don't forget, when you go, and you better go, make sure you told them you heard about them on this podcast, Texas Under Vine. Now, while I was there, when I finished my tasting, I fell in love with this. This is their 2018 Asteries wine. It's a Bordeaux tribute, so it's got Merlot, Cabernet Sauvignon, and Malbec. So great little Bordeaux tribute. It really was perfect for me. It's a velvety, smooth wine that tasted so good. And so I brought that home as my library bottle for this episode. All right. I need to grab another bag of those tasty almonds and then get back on the road to bring you information about another wine destination. I'm going to be snacking on those almonds as I go. However, if you are enjoying the content of the show, would you consider sponsoring the podcast? It only costs a few dollars a month and it entitles you to a lot more benefit. So if you become a Patreon of the show, you actually get access to behind the scenes photos and videos and some other really cool things coming down the road that I can't talk about yet. And it's only for a few dollars a month. And it covers the things like the hosting of this podcast, my travel expenses, all the great education that I'm getting as I do this and hopefully bringing to you as well. So just giving a few dollars can really help this show out. If you'd like to donate, either a one-time donation or become a Patreon and a monthly recurring donation, just go to my website, texasundervine.com, and go to the very top and there's a link for Become a Patron. It'll take you through and show you all the details of what you can get by being a supporter of the show. And a huge shout out to my current Patreon subscribers. You guys really help make this magic happen. In addition, I'd like to thank Texas Wine Lover. Make sure you check out that app, as well as the Texas Wine Club for their support of the show. And you can get that $20 off at Texas Wine Club if you use that coupon Texas Under Vine. So make sure you check them out as well. Perfect hand in hand with this episode. And with that, my time is up. So make sure you subscribe to the socials to be notified anytime a new episode is posted. And until then, happy trails and bottoms up, y'all. Thanks for listening to Texas Under Vine. We strive to provide you with the best information about wine businesses all over Texas. Be sure to check out our website at texasundervine.com and follow us on our socials at Texas Under Vine to stay up on all the upcoming episodes. Please email us with any suggestions or feedback. Also, contact us if you're interested in donating, sponsoring, or advertising on the podcast, just to help us cover our expenses and bring even more great info to you in future episodes. Above all, travel safely, and most especially, drink responsibly. Vine Trippers, have I got a deal for you. So if you haven't checked out the Texas Wine Club yet, you have to go check it out. So you can get wine clubs at all of these different great wineries that I've talked about in the episodes. But if you can't get a chance to get to those places and you want to sample some of those various wines, this is the perfect fit for this podcast. So I've partnered with Texas Wine Club. If you go to their website, they scour the whole state. They choose great wines from all over the Texas wineries, and they put them together into packs that they ship out every quarter. You could pick out a package of 3, 6, or 9 bottles, and every quarter you can get a taste of different wineries throughout Texas without having to travel to them. So if you've wanted to taste some of the great wine I've talked about on this podcast, here's your chance without having to travel. So what you're going to want to do is go to www.txwine.com and pick your package that you want to try. And when you put in my code, Texas Under Vine, that's all one word, TEXASUNDERVINE, as your coupon code, you'll get $20 off your purchase. So head on over there. You can also find the link in the show notes here for this podcast, and go check out Texas Wine. They're a perfect fit with this podcast. So go drink some great wine.